Okay, hey, so I'm Ethan here, and I'm currently doing my first devlog for what is Scarred Steel. So this game is pretty much inspired by games like things, like with Heads Will Roll, and even things like Dark Souls. And effectively, the whole idea of it is that it's a brutal medieval roguelite where every scar tells a story. Thoughts that I was looking to add to it were things, like permanent injuries, hard choices, and just generally difficult duels. I'm a big fan of Heads Will Roll Reforged, and so figured that if I could base effectively my first game similar to that concept, but actually perhaps make it a bit more realistic and difficult, that would be ideal. So, effectively, what I've been doing, and for reference, this journey so far has been really quite interesting because I'm actually just using ChatGPT to do all of this. So I get ChatGPT to write all the code for me, and I also get it to create all the assets for me. So all of the, well, effectively everything which I'm about to show you here was all effectively, the script was written by GPT, the actual assets were made by GPT. It's just a matter of me having to put stuff together, be a bit patient with it, and sort of do some trial and error stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'll just basically run what I currently have, so you can see what it is that we're dealing with at the moment. So what I basically have at the moment is I've got so I mean my goal is basically make a demo out of this, but we've pretty much got what is the title screen. We've got some music as well. I'm not sure how loud that is in comparison to what we've got here. Obviously, new game, continue settings. Settings is coming soon. I do obviously need to change that. But generally, when people click start new game, I basically have an intro scene here, which to give some context as to what's effectively happening. And I mean, nothing like at the moment, I'm focusing less on necessarily polishing stuff and just more having a start to finish game, and then I can go back and polish. But I quite like this sort of intro scene as well. And like I said before, I have no idea how loud this stuff is. Maybe I need to turn stuff down. But yeah, so generally it just gives basically a bit of an intro at the moment. So I'm pretty happy with this. And then obviously click start, and this takes the character screen. Obviously, this is something I'm still developing, but effectively you're able to, basically increase and decrease your sort of stats and such in terms of what we got at the moment. Yeah, there we are. And you can obviously put your name in, which obviously it's a bit to the side, but that's fine. Yeah, and I'm still working on the stats stuff here, but eventually it will all come into play. And I'll probably, obviously, like I said before, I'm not focusing so much on polishing at the moment, just focusing on making the game start to finish. Then what I have here is I then have, hang on a minute. I'm not sure why that's, can we do, no, that's not going to be it. That's fine. So effectively what we have, and I mean, like obviously as you can see, I do need to change the adjustments, but we basically have the town. So I've got the little almost like tutorial sort of thing there. At the moment, I have that pop up every now and then, where effectively, I've got weaponsmith, armorsmith, arena, and you can click on them and you can go in. My plan is that I'm gonna effectively have ways where you can interact with these people. So this guy, the arena master or something. This tutorial just keeps popping up just because I've set it that way. But effectively, each of these places are clickable. So I've got an arena where effectively you would be able to, fight for golden prizes, but you run the risk of effectively, getting injuries and obviously fatigue. Training grounds to increase skills and sort of stats. Scavenging for sort of, or at least the woods, or scavenging and random events. Got places like the inn to sort of, rest up and heal. Got the tavern to effectively do a similar thing, maybe meet certain individuals and maybe take certain quests. And then we got things such as the weaponsmith, and we've got things like the armorsmith as well. So have got a good few buildings and such there, which is cool. And my plan pretty much with this is where this is obviously something which people can sort of train and such in. But I'll just stop that for now. What I do also have at the moment, which is definitely needs some improving, is effectively the fights, which, as you can see, is is very very is very good in quality. But effectively, I did sort of take the style, or at least the idea of heads will roll, where effectively you've got certain types of attacks and certain types of chances of hitting, and there is um, and obviously there's animation, or at least just for the main guy. But the general idea here is that I will look to include certain types of weapons that you can use, which obviously will have their own attacks. And obviously, there's so much more to be done here. But like I said before, I think my goal at the moment is pretty much just having a game from start to finish. Obviously, I don't want it to look completely rubbish, but I do just want to have a game from start to finish, which I can call pretty much a game. Um, so that's really pretty much the idea at the moment. So this is basically what I have at the moment. And so yeah, and so at the moment I think my focus really is just like I said before, getting a game from start to finish. So in terms of the sort of the concept of what this is going to look like. I think generally it is just going to be taking things or the ideas and the good parts from Heads Will Roll and making it a bit more challenging. So even things like permanent injuries, right? I don't know, you could sort of lose an eye and then all of a sudden maybe that then um, changes to perhaps you're less accurate in being able to hit, but maybe because of that scar, on your eye, maybe you're more intimidating. I don't know, but like that sort of thing. Because I noticed in games like Heads Will Roll, you can just heal up your injuries like that, and then that's that. But I'm not sure. But I think that could be quite interesting. I generally do like the whole idea of choices shaping effectively, or at least the fact that your decisions matter. But yeah, there's generally some sort of ideas with that. And then really just the last thing I wanted to sort of cover is just generally what I want these sort of I don't know scenes or acts to look like. So I'm still playing around with this, nothing set in stone, but I think my goal at the moment is to make effectively 3 acts. So we got Act One, which is effectively the idea that you play as a soldier in a royal guard, and then basically almost effectively betrayed, and then from there you I guess you effectively start from nothing, and your goal is to sort of get to the town, and I don't know, perhaps you have to sort of fight a few survivors in order to get there as an intro bit. And then obviously when you're in that town you're able to train, gather the equipment that you need, and perhaps random events and such. And then from here the town sort of gets overrun, or gets caused by war. And then by then the goal is effectively to find the person who perhaps was the person that like betrayed you and betrayed your unit, and such. So effectively perhaps you sort of find clues or speak to people that can uncover that, and then there could actually be a more difficult sort of ending to that where they're ambushed, or at least you're ambushed and you have to do sort of more difficult fights. And then Act Three is effectively, um, well, Act Three is effectively you then actually find that said person or noble, and then there's multiple like endings in the sense of you can either perhaps die in the throne room, you can perhaps sort of effectively get revenge but then walk away, or even something like actually I don't know. Effectively taking the noble's place, right? Because I do like in Heads Will Roll the idea of having multiple endings. So I think this is pretty much the structure I'm going to look to do. I do actually have a Trello board to basically just show exactly the sort of things that I'm considering doing, just as a just an upcoming thing. 'Cause I think my goal is within the next maybe couple months, I want to get effectively a demo out on Steam, or at least something out on Steam, even if it's a coming soon thing. But yeah, this is pretty much the devlog. Obviously, it's not perfect, but I figured that if you're someone that is into games like Heads Will Roll, or those sort of more challenging games that really actually get you to think, then I think you actually might find, that this game could be quite useful for you. And obviously, any feedback or ideas would be really useful. But generally speaking, this is the devlog so far. And yeah, we'll catch you soon.